Hello, Aubrey. How are you today?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. Aubrey, I have a question for you. You
All
ready?
right. Yes.
So, do you say the word gonna a lot?
Yes, I do. Gonna, wanna, sorta, all of these where we're combining two words. I've
Yeah.
especially noticed it as you guys probably know we are also over on All Ears English. And in the
Yes.
transcripts, I'll see gonna and wanna a lot. And it's more
Mhm.
noticeable when you see it written because as we're
Right.
speaking, we hardly notice.
Of course. I'm the same way, Aubrey. I use it all the time. This is just a natural way of speaking, right?
Yeah, we got a great question about this that I'm excited to dive into because you
Yes.
need to know if you can use words like this on speaking and writing.
Yes, but first we want to give our listeners a super important update, especially if they missed episode 1498. So, guys, an important announcement, especially if you missed that episode on Friday, Jessica has moved on to other opportunities. So, check out episode 1498 if you missed it to get more details.
Yes, Lindsay will be taking over as co host on the show, and you'll even hear Michelle's voice sometimes.
Yes, as well as guest episodes. It's going to be great. So, guys, I was the co host of IELTS Energy originally up until episode 780. So, I'm not new to IELTS and I'm definitely not new to podcasting. If you listen to All Ears English or Business English, we've been
Right.
doing
Then
this
you've heard
for 12
thousands of
years.
episodes with Lindsay. Right.
So, I'm super excited to be here on IELTS Energy and bring up the energy level on the show and focus here on IELTS and learn. All right, let's do it.
Love it. We've got a great question here. I'll go ahead and read it. Hey, I want to ask on IELTS speaking test, can we use words that you use when speaking? For instance, gonna instead of going to. I live in a country that doesn't teach those words, but I learned them on YouTube. So I
Yeah.
started wondering. I hope you guys can help. Thank you so much, Fuang.
Oh, it's a
Fantastic
great
question.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting that Fong said that in his or her country, they don't teach those words, right? They don't teach the words like that. They teach going to, right?
Exactly. And textbooks don't teach them, right? This is how native
Right.
English speakers actually talk all the time. All of
Mhm.
us. This is very common. When
Yes.
we're speaking, we're saving time. We're saying the sounds that it's more easy for our mouths to make. So
Mhm.
this is super common in speech. And yes, you absolutely can say gonna on the speaking exam and maybe even should, because
Yeah.
this is going to help get you that variety of vocabulary. It's slang, which is
Yes.
great, especially
Yeah.
for speaking part one.
But only on the speaking exam, right, Aubrey? So we need to keep that in mind. Is that right? Only on the
Yes,
speaking exam.
listen to the
So keep
end
that in
because we're
mind.
going to
Yeah.
share why this is a common student mistake. You should
Mhm.
never write these on in your IELTS writing essays.
All right. So we have some examples, some sample question answers here, Aubrey.
Exactly, right? We're going to do a part one, a part two, and part three. We'll share a question you might get on test day with an answer that might use gonna, wanna, because all of these you can use gonna, wanna, oughta, sorta, lotta, gotta, kinda. There's so many where it's two or three words
Yeah.
squished together and we say them as one word.
All right, Aubrey, I'll ask you the first speaking part one question. Are you ready?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so do you prefer to spend time with one close friend or many friends?
I'm going to be honest here. I really don't like crowds. So, without a doubt, I would absolutely rather hang out with one friend. I'll go to a party or a get together with bigger groups every now and then, but I'm always more comfortable chatting over a coffee with one person I know well.
Oh, that was a fantastic answer. The energy and the way you punched absolutely with the intonation for your pronunciation score. And I heard
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest here. So, right?
Yes, right. High vocabulary scores as well as pronunciation. So you absolutely can say gonna. It's a great filler phrase, actually, to be like, I'm going to be honest, or I'm going to
Yeah.
say I'm surprised about that question, right? There are so many fillers where you might use one of these gonna, wanna.
Yeah, fillers that will increase your vocabulary score and to open it up so it gives you time to think about your answer. This is what I love about that strategy, right, Aubrey?
Absolutely, right? Let's have
Mhm.
you do the same thing for a part two.
Okay.
Use a fun filler here. Describe a book you read recently. Don't give us a full 2-minute answer, but how
Okay.
could you start that answer?
Okay. This is going to surprise you, but I haven't finished a book in ages. I start them and I read a few pages and then something comes up and I never finish them. However, I did pick up a book recently that I'm super excited about called
And
A
then you
tree
say the name of
grows
the
in Brooklyn.
there you go, and you had
Brooklyn.
a book even, nice. So yeah, this is a great way to start a question like this, and this could happen to you. You're asked a question, maybe you haven't read a book in a while. You're studying for IELTS, maybe you're
Yeah,
not reading a novel. You should be to get
sure.
that vocabulary,
You
right?
should
But
be.
this could
Yes.
happen, and you might need a few seconds to think of a title of a book that
Mhm.
you've read recently. Luckily, you have a minute to prep your part 2 answer, but this
Okay.
is still a great way to start it, a very native, natural way to say, I'm going to be honest here. I haven't read a book in ages, right?
Yeah. I love
Or
that.
this is going to
It's very
surprise you.
this is gonna surprise you, and I love that. It's putting personality into your answer, it's buying you time to think, it's doing a lot of things that's increasing parts of your score, and again, totally fine to use gonna, okay?
Absolutely.
What
All
about
right,
in
let's
part
do a part
3? I mean,
3.
part
Yeah.
3, Aubrey, is more about the societal issues, so do we think we can't use gonna here? I don't know. What do
Right.
we
This is a
think?
common misconception thinking that part 3 answers have to be all formal
Mm,
vocabulary. There will be more formal vocabulary because they are, like you said, issues that are affecting society at large. So there
mhm,
will be topic specific vocabulary that is more formal. But
okay,
you are still going to end up using this more informal vocabulary that we use when we speak. So
love it.
I'll answer a part 3 question
Okay.
here and use gonna, wanna, something like that.
All right, here's your speaking part 3 question. Is private healthcare better than public healthcare where you live?
I'm not gonna lie, without a doubt, those who can afford it in my country receive better care by far. As an illustration, when I gave birth to my daughter in New York City, I had the option to pay for a private room. Unfortunately, because I definitely couldn't afford it, I shared a room with another mother, and both of our babies would cry intermittently throughout the night and wake everyone in the room up.
Oh my
This really
goodness.
happened. I remember it
Oh,
was a couple
interesting story.
$1,000s to have a private room, and I couldn't afford
Oh,
that.
yeah, for sure. Great story. And you're bringing in the societal, big questions of society. You're answering the question, but with a personal story. Interesting.
Absolutely. That's what's interesting about part 3. Yes, you have to answer the question. You're going to be thinking about society at large, but often the details and the examples you share will be from your personal experience.
And good pronunciation when you said, unfortunately, because I definitely couldn't afford it. You're being very clear there, very emphatic.
Yes, you want to avoid a monotone, right? Emphasize those adjectives, adverbs, interesting details so that
Mhm.
you get the variety of intonation you need for your pronunciation score.
So good. And again, you started by saying, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, even on
Right?
part 3, right? We're
Okay.
still going to use these more informal speech markers.
Yeah, so part 3 is a really interesting mix of you are naturally gonna use, like you said, Aubrey, that higher level vocab because it's gonna come up in your answer, but you're
Mhm.
keeping it somewhat casual and at the same time. It's a weird blend of the 2, isn't it?
Exactly, because we're
Yeah.
still speaking, right? So
Mhm.
it's still pretty informal speech, but notice the vocabulary difference. I said intermittently, would cry intermittently because I am trying, that's a band 9 word instead of cry all the time or cry off and on. So we
Yes.
will, and then also my linking phrase here to say as an illustration, when I gave birth to my daughter, right? And in part
Mhm.
1, part 2, you might say, for instance, or for example, and use a more
Yes.
informal linking phrase.
Oh, super interesting. Good information to have here. Okay, Aubrey, we are back from break. So, what about writing? We've just learned that it is okay to say gonna, wanna, coulda, shoulda in speaking, but what about writing?
Yeah, the answer is no. You
Okay.
should never write this on any of your essays. And this is a very common student mistake on general task 1 informal letters because
Mhm.
students know that they need to be more informal. So sometimes they will write exactly how they would speak, but the grammar and spelling still has to be correct. So these words, if you write them, will be considered mistakes.
That is a stark difference from
Mhm.
speaking. And we have to know
Absolutely.
this. I don't, this is why it's so important to learn about the test, learn about test strategies, learn about what the examiner's looking for.
Right, exactly. Because if this were a phone conversation with a friend, you'd say wanna, gonna, but
Sure.
writing a letter, it has to be correct grammar, vocabulary. So you would have to write out want to, have to, right? You do
Mm,
need that informal tone. So you need informal vocabulary, slang, and less commonly or less formal linking phrases, for example. But you have to still spell everything correctly and write out these words.
yes. Okay. Where to, Aubrey, from here? What should we do at this point?
We're going to go over an example task one letter. So we'll read for you the prompt and then we'll give you the paragraph that you could have for your first bullet point. So
Okay.
I'll go ahead and read the prompt. It
Yes.
is your English speaking friend has asked for your help with a college project that he or she, I couldn't quite see it. He or she is doing about
Mhm.
celebrating New Year's Eve in different countries. Write
Mhm.
a letter to your friend. In your letter, say how important New Year's Eve is to people in your country.
Okay.
Describe how New Year's Eve is celebrated in your country. Explain what you like about New Year's Eve celebrations in your country. So you
Mm.
have these 3 bullet points for your task 1 essay. You have to fully respond to each one, at least
Okay.
2 details per bullet point. We recommend organizing this with a separate paragraph per bullet point.
Okay.
Now, Lindsay, give us,
Okay.
instead of writing wanna and gonna,
No.
how could you get that informal tone for that first bullet point?
Okay, so for the first of all, I'll just read what we have here. You wouldn't believe how Americans get into New Year's Eve, right? So that is explaining there are tons of get togethers. Okay, so that part is explaining the first bullet point, right, Aubrey?
Yes, this whole paragraph. This would be your
Oh, the
first
whole
paragraph for
paragraph.
your
Okay.
task 1 essay,
Let,
so you can
let me
read the
keep
whole thing.
going then.
Yeah.
We usually want to barbecue during the day at a lake or in a pal's backyard. Without fail, we always want to meet up with friends at night to hang out and watch fireworks.
Nice. I love how it's like when we're saying it, it feels so awkward to
It
say, "We
does.
always want to meet up," because we wouldn't say it, we'd say wanna,
It
but you
really
have to
doesn't feel
write it
natural.
out. You'd have to write, "Want to meet up."
Yes. Okay.
But how have we struck this informal tone here? This would be a band 9 paragraph for this task 1 essay. You've got your first bullet point, say how
Mhm,
important New Year's Eve, you need at least 2 details. We start
mhm.
with, "You wouldn't believe." That's a great way to write to a friend, right? It's a very informal. You
Yes.
would not start a letter to a CEO or a complaint letter like that. It's informal.
Yes. No, I love it. It's emphatic, it's informal. You wouldn't believe how Americans get into New Year's Eve. Yes, love it.
Yeah, and into, to be into something, get into, this is very informal. The more
Mhm,
formal option would be like celebrate, and
mhm.
instead we're choosing this, a more informal phrasal verb.
Yeah, and I can see some other informal things happening here. We said there are tons of get-togethers, right? Tons is informal, right?
Exactly. Instead of saying there is an extremely high number, there is an
Yeah.
inordinate number of parties. No, right?
Not
We're
informal.
choosing the informal option. There are tons of get togethers.
Yep, and then we mentioned a pal's backyard, also informal.
Right. Even a little more informal than friend, right? To say
Mhm.
in a pal's backyard, just slightly
Yes.
more informal. And then writing out want to. We
Mhm.
want to meet up with friends. And then finally to hang out and watch fireworks, slightly more informal, those phrasal verbs.
Nice. I love it. A great example. And again, it's so important to know it's okay to use this in speaking, gonna, wanna, coulda, shoulda, but not in
Yes.
writing. So important, Aubrey.
Exactly. Very important. Yes, guys, if you missed it, go back and listen to Friday's episode, part 3,
Mhm.
listening practice and an important update,
Yes.
1498, to hear from Jessica about her new adventures. And also, there's some amazing part 3 listening practice in that episode.
Yes, we are super grateful for Jessica's 10 years of podcasting here at
Amazing.
Dollars English. And I am excited to be on IELTS Energy moving forward, Aubrey. Good
Yes,
stuff.
so fun. And like you said, Lindsay, don't forget, guys, this is a very common mistake we want you to avoid. So if you are doing the general IELTS test and you get an informal essay, be sure to write out words like that. You can't write it exactly how you would say it.
Great advice, Aubrey. We'll see you next time back on the show. All right.
Awesome. See you next
All
time.
right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.